This episode of Inside the Game is brought to you by MSI Gaming. The game just got real. Head to our website at insidethegame.ca, where there you can hit up on the MSI link to get all your PC gaming needs. Now, let's get on with the show. What's up, everybody? We are Inside the Game, your one-stop shop for everything cool in video games. The holidays are over, which means we're back to work. All kinds of news to cover, brand new games, a whole bunch of VR stuff. So let's get started with the Inside Scoop.
So as most of you know, we got Doom Eternal coming out right around the corner, and as a little thank you from our creators of Doom, we got a little update for Doom 1 and Doom 2. We got some quality of life adjustments, we have now the added feature of quick save, we have for the first time ever 60 FPS on Doom 1 and native 60 FPS on Doom 2. These are all really exciting and are making me hop back in. Let's go.
Big news for Monster Hunter fans on PC, the Iceborne DLC is upon us. Now, the Iceborne is home to the Elder Dragon Velkhana, and they have a couple different changes in the game. They've added a grappling hook, they've added a whole lot of new items, they've updated all 14 of the weapon classes. There's quite a bit to that. There's also a couple bonuses for logging in, so make sure you log in on PC before February 5th.
Most of us have seen the Witcher series over on Netflix by now, and Season 1 had a bit of a convoluted timeline halfway through the season. Lauren Hissrich has gone on to state that Season 2 will be much more linear now that the characters' stories are starting to intersect. So the convoluted story timeline should be over with. Expect new fun characters and more lore within the series coming in Season 2 in 2021.
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we are here in the new year of 2020, and we got some new games coming to Xbox Game Pass. On January 9th, we got Frostpunk Console Edition, as well as Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. And then on January 16th, we got Tekken 7. Let me see you out there on the battlefields.
Lord of the Rings Gollum has been confirmed to be on the new consoles. Not too surprising, considering we're thinking this game is coming out in 2021. But Daedalic has nailed down some of the details about this game. It follows Gollum and Smeagol, and you kind of struggle between the two as you meet the Ring and all the other characters that we know from the Lord of the Rings. Now, what you can't expect is that Smeagol is going to look a little different. He's not the Smeagol that we know from the movies. And in addition to that, the Nazgul are in the story, and they're also supposed to be a little bit different. Don't expect the Andy Serkis version that you've come to love, but that doesn't say too much. This game could really be quite a blockbuster.
PlayStation is up to it again with some staggering numbers. The PlayStation Network has reached 103 million active monthly users. That's some pretty big numbers. They've also sold 106 million units sold through, meaning gone to the actual customer. That is huge numbers, and it keeps going. They've sold software sales of $1.15 billion. Are they ever gonna stop? I don't know, but they were just at CES where they revealed the PlayStation 5 logo. Really? Was that a big shock? Yes! No, it was no big shock. Not at all. It looked the same. Nate doesn't know what he's talking about. All in all, I'm excited to see what they have up their sleeve for PlayStation 5. Jim Ryan says the best features are still to come.
All right, Edward, are you ready?
I am. Nate, you and I jumped into Assassin's Creed The Rebel Collection on the Switch. Dude, this is sick. I've been waiting for Assassin's Creed to be on the go forever,
buddy.
and it's finally here, and I'm absolutely pleased with how well it runs.
Yeah, man. So I've actually never played either of these Assassin's Creed games in the past. Believe it or not, I know. Out of all the games,
Yeah,
I somehow
that's
missed
fair.
the boat on this one.
Whoa, man. Assassin's Creed 4 is an absolute staple. Black Flag is one of the best titles that the franchise has. Rogue was one of those, it was a cross-platform thing at the time, right? So you have Black Flag went to the new consoles, and Rogue went, kind of stayed with the old consoles. Rogue's now been ported over to the newer ones, and now has been brought to the Switch in a collection. Wow.
Man, this is totally worth picking up, man.
Yes.
Because the Assassin's Creed formula, it's changed with the last two games, Origins and Odyssey.
Yes.
It is very, sorry, it is very different.
Very different.
But you know, for me, it's great going back to that classic Assassin's
nostalgia,
Creed
yeah.
where, you know, right from the beginning you can basically kill 8 guards at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. It is definitely got that old mentality when it comes back to the old Assassin's Creed stuff, because it essentially is just a port over, right? But it runs, the biggest part about it is how well it runs.
Yes.
So you get the Assassin's Creed 4 story, you get Black Flag story, and you get the Rogue story. So Rogue was Shay, who starts as an assassin, turns Templar, and then you get Kenway's story over on the other side, who is just, man, Edward is
playing as a
awesome.
pirate, that's the thing. But
That was where
I
it
love
shined.
both these stories because
Yeah.
in all the other games, like you said, you're an assassin. But
Yep.
in this, you're playing as a pirate and you're kind of working, you know, sneakily for them, but not really, because you're
Yeah.
still a scummy pirate.
You still got your own motivations, right? So
But then as Shay, you know, it's really cool playing as, you know, you're like, oh, I'm just another assassin, but you're Irish,
Yeah.
which I love.
Yeah.
But, you know, then the whole rebelling thing and seeing why he rebels. It
Yes.
is really great. Both the stories, the voice acting, just top notch with these games. So as you know, with the Assassin's Creed games now, the big thing is the naval side of it.
yes.
And you can kind of see where it's evolved from then to where it is now. Because back then, it was a ton of fun, man. I'm really upset that I actually missed this all those years ago.
Yeah.
Because I only heard great things. And now playing it on the Switch, it just looks awesome sailing the seas.
Well, the whole sea battle stuff started with Assassin's Creed 3, which was just kind of a bit of a tease. And then they really emphasized it going into Black Flag, because that was the whole main story, was being out in the open seas and being a pirate. So they've taken that and then they kind of just kept going with it. And from there, they keep iterating and iterating. And now you get into Odyssey, and it's blown up even more. But you can see where it started. Now, the biggest thing is, for me, is going back to an old Assassin's Creed is a little bit difficult now because of being so involved in Odyssey and Origins, where the formula has changed. So to go back, and then back in the old days of Assassin's Creed, you would sit there and you work on timing. You would let them attack first, counter, and then kill them.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? And it's kind of a rinse and repeat. So to go back to that stuff again, I was like, oh man,
This is fun.
It's fun, but again, I'm like,
It's
this has
old.
really changed. You can feel that old Assassin's Creed. So if you can get past that part, you can really enjoy the game for what it is and get involved with the story. And you have a lot of game here too.
Yeah, and kind of a nice thing with these games, this is more of an older Assassin's Creed thing, but like right off the hop, you pretty much have not all the tools, but most of your tools at your disposal. You got the dual blades.
Yes.
You know, you get your 2 swords. You can get lots of weapons all your arse, like right from the beginning. Sorry, but it's really cool. I like that about it.
And again, you can see where they've started to work on the whole RPG system, and that's where that's evolved from as well. So you start to kind of look back at going, okay, this is where Assassin's Creed started with the naval battles and the RPG and turning the tides of what Assassin's Creed was from Altair, man, oh man, like we're going way back
Way
now,
back.
into where you're starting to see where the future is building for Assassin's Creed and leading up to Odyssey. All these stories are intertwined in one way or another, so there's a lot to appreciate within the story and the world of Assassin's Creed and the lore. It's so deep.
And that's a big thing with Rogue, is that Rogue's is kind of like this tie up all the loose ends,
Yeah.
tie in all the stories kind of game. I don't want to spoil anything because there's some really big moments in this
Yes.
where you're just shocked. But that all being said, it was cool because it tied everything from the past on, and then the next game. It was really well done.
It was so worth it. If you have the opportunity, you've missed one of these titles, honestly, it's worth picking up. Absolutely pick it up on the Switch, on the go, and it looks phenomenal.
Yeah. One of the things is there is a little bit of jankiness when you're traversing around. But
sometimes, yeah.
That's really no fault again on the port over, because in the old games, from what I've seen and what I've heard, is they were like that. Well, you're trying to run up a surface, and then for some reason there's a wall that you should clearly be able to go up, but you just can't.
So that's what I found myself.
Backwards.
So in the latest Assassin's Creed, you can climb literally everything and anything. So to go back, and I focused on Rogue more than I did with Black Flag, because I beat the crap out of Black Flag. So I touched on that to kind of get the feel, to make sure it ran well. Man, it was flawless, to be honest. But I jumped into Rogue, and there's like, I'm trying to climb up some of the rocks, and I'm not. I'm like, man, you can, I'm going back in time, and I can't do that. So I was kind of like, man, so that's what I mean when it comes to that feel, that disconnect of where you get the new ones going back to the old, and you kind of miss some of the new tools and now that we have at our disposal, which just isn't there because we haven't made it that far yet.
So another great thing about these games is actually the maps, because they feel very different. I was kind of worried, playing both kind of Pirates, sort of same era, them being very much the same, but they're not. In Rogue, you kind of have your North America parts of it, and it's very wintry and cold. Just some of the maps are very open, and then some are very rivery and corridory. So I really enjoyed that about this.
I thought it was really cool in Rogue too, that as you're sailing, you gotta watch for like the little chunks of icebergs that are out there.
I slammed those whole time.
I did as well, because we come from Black Flag, everything's open, man. There are no icebergs in there. So to get into Rogue, I was like, oh crap! Oh man, okay. So you gotta pay attention a little bit more to who you're fighting out on the seas, as well as some of these ice boulders and things that are out there as well. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
Nate, you and I had a great time playing Assassin's Creed The Rebel Collection on the Switch. What are you scoring it?
This one is not a tough one for me to score. I loved it. I thought the port over was pretty much perfect.
Yep.
The graphics look super good, and this one is getting an 8.5 from me, man.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Honestly, Assassin's Creed The Rebel Collection is one of the best ports made it to the Switch. If you're an Assassin's Creed fan, you need to pick this one up. I'm there with an 8.5 as well.
Nice.
Assassin's Creed The Rebel Collection is a must-buy for any Assassin's Creed fan. The return to AC Black Flag and AC Rogue was a great experience we didn't expect for the Switch. We did feel the old style gameplay from previous AC titles, but AC The Rebel Collection is simply one of the best ports to make its way to the Switch.
It's been over a year since Nintendo has launched their online service. Now, myself and the ITG crew are going to talk about some of the changes and maybe where we want to see it going.
Alright guys, the online service for the Nintendo Switch has been here for about a year now, and we're kind of taking a look at where it started, where it's heading, and what we would like to see in the future. It started off pretty rough, but I think overall what they started to offer us now at a lower discounted price than what we'll see for PlayStation Plus or Xbox Gold is that we get in now for 20 bucks. We get the ability to now play online, which we had in the past. So it's kind of a weird little twist on what they're doing. But they also brought over old NES titles, 20 of those, and 40 Super NES titles, which allows us to go back in and play the old Star Fox and some of those classics.
And even a new Star Fox that they made specifically for the mini console that is now in this, packaged into the Nintendo Online.
Yep.
That game is awesome.
I can appreciate it for the nostalgia, but a lot of the times with the networks now, what they're doing is they're bringing out newer titles, and I'd like to see something like that from Nintendo. At this point, like, how old is Breath of the Wild? Why not give us Breath of the Wild? If we can get a staple industry name like that on the Switch, that's kind of a game changer. I think that Nintendo could actually really turn around it and help kind of grow their online service.
That makes sense, because if you're a new Nintendo customer and you buy the Switch and you want to go online, you might make that decision if it comes with a game like Breath of the Wild. That would definitely push it over the edge into kind of what we're used to dealing with in the other consoles.
And get us ready for the Breath of the Wild 2 that's been announced, teased more than anything else, but we also know now that it's coming, right? So, hey, it'll help grow that infrastructure a little bit and build the player base even more.
So one of the major issues that everybody had was that we're going to have to pay for this service. But it
Yes.
is coming in at quite a bit lower than the other consoles. For $5 a month and then $25 for the year for a single person, that's not really that bad.
No.
But then you get into this family package deal, and I think there's still value there, but it's a little, again, convoluted. You're not exactly...
This is something that I'm not totally down with because they call it a family package, family sharing.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is if you're using the game and then I want to try and use your account or any other game, I can't.
Yeah, there's
So there's
no
really,
cross.
I almost feel like it's kind of a shame. It's like, yeah, you can have, we can share, but it's like on Xbox or PS4, I can download my account on any console at any time.
Right.
Why is this? It's not really sharing. It's just like, oh, you're allowed to put your account on more than one Switch. So I'm kind of not as much of a fan of it, but
I feel like the system for the online service has been like half-baked.
yes.
It's there, it's a step, but it feels like a Nintendo thing to be held back so much. And it's really unfortunate when you have had PlayStation Network and the Xbox Gold and Live service for so long. Nintendo knows what they're up against.
Yeah.
So all they had to do is really kind of adapt both of those systems together and then bring their online service. And charge. I would pay $80 though. I would pay $80 for the online service for Nintendo if the value was there.
If it came with the friends list, the always having a game chat, parties.
It needs a party chat
Maybe
system, not my
some-
phone.
Yeah, that's the one thing. They kind of focused on this app that you
So
use
it's
to.
a security thing, right?
Eh,
I know, but let's be honest. At this point, Nintendo has to realize that there are a mature audience on the system that is asking for a party chat system. We need that party chat system. You can play some games on chat online and others you can't. It just doesn't make any sense. So when I go into Fortnite, there's no problem there. You can play Fortnite. Why? Because of Epic. Not because of Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's because of Epic and their system and how they've got it laid out that you're able to game chat within there. But when you get to a party chat, there isn't any unless I'm supposed to pull up my phone.
If we're
and
playing
then
Mario
chat.
Kart, we should just be able to, in the game, be able to just talk trash to each other.
We should, honestly, yes. And then give us the ability to mute those people or report those people that are being abusive. And it's just no different than PlayStation or Xbox. They all have it, so why are we being dumbed down on the system?
yeah, let me take it away from parental controls if I want to, but having it not on the console entirely just makes it a back burner kind of app that nobody's really going to pick up.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. There is such a disconnect there, I think, from Nintendo from where we are with PlayStation and Xbox. As much as I don't want to compare the two, but you have to.
You kind of have to now.
Because they need to step it up, honestly, right? I think the service has started in the right direction, but again, we need to see newer games.
Yeah, to continue that comparison, we need to get a drip feed of a game every month, or discounts, major discounts in the store, or maybe just things that are more advertised to you that maybe we just don't know all the features, and that's kind of just Nintendo's issue.
Hidden
Letting us
away,
all know.
tucked away, right?
Yeah.
But we do need, so we got Tetris 99.
Solid.
What an
Solid.
amazing game.
Amazing title, absolutely. So that surprised the world when that was announced and it came out. And we all got it for nothing. Okay, but where's the next free game? Where's my next draw to have this service to draw me back in? You're always gonna get your Super Mario Brothers and the next star of the game for Nintendo. They have a solid first-party library.
Yeah.
But they need to be able to entice us to keep us there for the online service. And I feel it's just a little too short right now.
Yeah, the NES and the SNES games are just kind of not quite enough.
No.
Yeah. So another thing that's kind of lacking on this is the overall connectivity while you're playing games.
Yeah.
Countless games, countless times while I'm watching my friends play, just out of nowhere, there'll just be lag drops. And with something like Super Mario Maker 2, that's almost, I don't want to say the staple of the Switch, but something that's really been
It's a
really
pivotal
big.
game.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
they have this new multiplayer feature, and it looks like a ton of fun, but I'm watching my friend play it, and it's almost unbearable at times. The
Smash
lag.
Brothers. Super Smash Ultimate.
Yeah, how do you play a fighting game when there's lag? You can't.
No, it's almost unplayable at times online. And it's frustrating as much because everybody, that is such a game built around community and
Yes.
being able to take a fighting game online is what it is all about in a game like that. So to be able to get on there and have a solid system, it needs to be there. And Nintendo has the infrastructure.
Yes.
They have the money. So they just need to put the two together and get that foundation built properly.
I think maying forward with this year, just because, especially with Xbox Series X,
Yep.
PS5 coming out this year,
Sure.
maybe they don't need to necessarily step up their game, but they kind of have to, because, well,
There's going to be changes happening
Yeah.
in the industry, yeah.
and there's even been kind of rumors about an Alienware actual handheld console too, just to kind of like, not that
UFO.
needs to put the Switch,
No.
at any sort of scare, but it's just, they have to do something to fix their online.
Yep.
I have to say.
Overall, the online service for Nintendo it's started, it's coming up, but it's not quite there to the next level that I think that it really needs to be. Moving forward into 2020, I think Nintendo honestly needs to kind of step up the game a little bit. Like you said, Scott, with the new consoles just around the corner, they're going to be in some major competition now moving forward, and the Switch is already a little behind already with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One X. So when you're already a stage behind, and the new guys are about to announce the next console, you're now even further behind. So you gotta have honestly, a Nintendo Switch Pro with a better online service.
Moving forward, man, that is what we need to see, is just a smooth working online service where I can play games with my friends and not get lagged out or
Absolutely.
it just not work.
And if they can't deliver on that in the short term, we need some kind of a roadmap just to kind of let us know where it's going and the service wants to be in the future.
Yep. That's what we'd like to see. We want to know what you guys are talking about for the online service for Nintendo Switch. Hit us up at InsideTheGame.ca.
This week, I'm doing this one solo, Resident Evil 2. Recently, I had a chance to spend a lot of time in a game that I remember way back. Resident Evil 2 has had a remake, and they've really gone all out on this remake. If you remember that game from back in the day, they had all these fixed camera angles, which was a staple of the series at the time, but it was a little cumbersome. And the game was dated. If you look at it now, you know it's kind of an older game, but this remake really pulled out all the stops. The game looks amazing. The cameras are all free-flowing. They took this old game that plays kind of very statically, and they made it kind of like the Resident Evil 4 experience that you're more used to in the modern era. The camera's over the shoulder, you can control it, you can be Leon, you can be Claire, you can be any of these other characters in these kind of side stories that they've also stitched into the game. So you have this full campaign experience to explore with a little different tweaks just kind of thrown on top. They also tweaked a couple things from the original game, and they added this character, Tyrant. Now, Tyrant's there just to ruin your day. Whatever you have going on, he will appear kind of random-esque, just to ruin your whole flow. If you kind of cleared out the zombies in the area, you can almost expect him to be there, just as kind of like a stopping force to kind of slow you down through this game. Now, if you remember some of the details about this game, you're going to have a good time flowing through this because it's all there. It's all the same. There's all the same locks, all the same combinations, all the same characters, the different enemies, a lot of the same jump scares, but they have added a whole lot more to that. So the whole story of Resident Evil 2 is kind of told to you through two different perspectives. You're meant to go through, I believe, first as Leon Kennedy, get the kind of base experience of the game. Then you can switch over to Claire and a New Game Plus kind of setting. And that changes some of the cutscenes, changes a lot of the dialogue, a little bit of the pacing and the order in which you go through some of the levels, but it kind of freshens up that experience to let you play really meaningfully a second time around. And you also meet these kind of characters on the side. You don't really spend too much time with them during the main story, but you jump out of the main story and they have this extra mode where you can take control of one of these guys and you have to run through all these zombies. It's more of a combat exercise. And I thought that was something that was really extra on this game. It did not need it in any capacity, but they kind of added these little extra stories just to keep you playing this already nostalgic game. In addition to the graphical overhaul, they really made this game look beautiful, but they also made it sound very thematic. So they have the binaural audio, which is the audio just spaced slightly apart, just like your human ears would be, to give you the kind of illusion of depth and sound direction. And in this game, that is perfect. When you're running away and you're in a mad sprint, you can hear everything clawing behind you, trying to get to you, and it really adds to that atmosphere of horror that they probably couldn't hit perfectly at the time when the game came out. That binaural audio can give you hints in the game, it can lead you to different places you would not have normally heard. It kind of gives, when Tyrant is bearing down on your back, it gives you just that little extra awareness. It really is what kind of hammers the horror aspect of this game home. So that was a little bit of my take on Resident Evil 2 Super Remake. Now, if this game kind of skipped over your radar when it came out, I would definitely recommend checking this out. Just because it is a timepiece from the old era, being so well remade into a new game. The quality of all the production is there, the cutscenes are phenomenal, all the audio is way better than it ever could have ever been originally. I have to give this game an 8.5. It's almost a perfect game. Resident Evil 2 is an amazing remake of a gem from the past, completely overhauled with new graphics, audio, and camera controls. It was a great game then, and even better now.
Hello?
Good to see you again, Claire. We've got unfinished business.
Drew, buckle up. It's time to get extreme.
Corey, you and I jumped into Gas Guzzlers Extreme, which is just, you know what, it's a trip down memory lane for a kid that at about age 13, I think, I would be in heaven.
Yeah.
But as we're a little bit older, this kind of game doesn't really kind of sit and fit our style.
Not the trip down memory lane nostalgia feel we were hoping for
Not
with this
really.
one. And let me tell you, Drew, there are some good things about this game, and there's going to be some negative things we're going to talk about with this one. First of all, I'm going to talk about the graphics, because we always talk about graphics, me and you. When we first start this game up, I felt like I was starting on my PlayStation 2, Drew. And I mean, I guess maybe that's being a little rude. Maybe my PlayStation 3 early game, I don't know. But it just felt like really chunky. It didn't look good.
It doesn't look great by any extreme. Your cars they look polished in your garage, but outside of that, they kind of, like, oh man, it was...
The environments were weak. Everything about the way the game looked just kind of looked like it was just missing that kind of smoothness, that finish that we were looking for now in a game.
Yeah, the polish is missing. When you play a racing game, everybody thrives on how clean and crisp everything looks in this environment, how nice the car looks. And there's just nothing about this looking nice whatsoever, unfortunately.
That's the thing. We're playing a battle race style game, which kind of brings you into the Twisted Metal realm and, you know, just like a full-on racing realm.
Yeah.
But we get into this and it just like, it works, but it doesn't. Like, there's so much potential here for this game, is what I'm saying. Like, if this game looked good, it would probably be a lot more fun to play with explosions and everything that happens in this game. But it's just, again, I can't get over the fact that the whole time I was playing this, I was like, I'm having a hard time looking at this game.
Yeah, honestly, okay, so when it first started, I thought, man, I'm ready to turn this thing off.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm only 10 minutes into the game. And then the more I kept playing, the more I actually kind of enjoyed playing the game. It really kind of caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did.
Yeah.
Faulting all the issues it has. There's definitely one issue after another. And Duke Nukem voiceover style is just killer, man.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, that is not... I don't want it. I don't think it's necessary. The comments coming out of him are just pathetic.
Some of them were like pretty offensive. Pretty offensive.
Offensive is yeah, and then the list of enemy is the AI you go up against, the battle against.
Yeah, their
are
names
just,
like all
those
play
are
on
like,
words, but very inappropriate.
Man.
You know what? Just there's a lot of aspects with this game that when I first jumped in and started playing, you know, we got into the career mode, and the career mode's actually it's
decent.
It's built out pretty well. I mean, besides the fact that it does get a little bit repetitive, but let's get real here. This is a racing game. There are a lot of repetitive things when you get to racing games.
There are, but
there should be at least a bit of a variety, right?
There is, like, let's look at Horizon, right? Forza Motorsport Horizon. You get into other driving games like Gran Turismo. There are such better games out there. Even to go back on your PS2 and play some Twisted Metal would probably be better than playing this game.
You want to know why it would be better, Drew?
Why?
Because even locally, I could plug the controllers in and play with my friends. Because guess what we couldn't do playing Gas Guzzlers? Play together with anybody. Guess what? It's a racing game. You play by yourself.
Which is absurd to me.
I couldn't believe it.
Like, you can't play couch co-op.
No.
You can't play online multiplayer.
A huge omission out of this game. Like, how do
I was just baffled.
forget? Not forget. Obviously, it was planned, but how do you not include something like this into a racing game?
The game dies right from the get-go because it has no experience with other people. It is just you and the stupid AI they put in the game that are just offensive. And then you listen to the Duke Nukem talk over and over. I'm like, dude, I am not 8 years old anymore. I don't need your stupid little comment.
No, it's just, you know what, it's trying to play off this kind of, you know, funny, you know, over the top kind of sense of humor thing, but honestly, it really falls flat for me.
Oh, it falls flat on his face and then wrecks every tire underneath my car. Like, it is just a little too much for me to want to play this game. But I said, when you get into the actual gameplay itself, I was enjoying the racing mechanic. I was enjoying the fact that I'm shooting at cars and blowing them up.
Yeah.
My favorite part was to go out and play the knockout rounds and just keep eliminating all these other racers. Because I hated all your names.
Just get them off the board. Get them off the board.
It's just, and it was just a constant, I want to go out and hit another car and shoot at another car. That part there was the best and only good part of this entire game.
Yeah, like there are aspects about the driving and, you know, how the battle aspect works that do feel good when you're playing this game. It's not terrible, but again, it's missing that polish overall for this game. And I don't know if we could really say too much more about this one, Drew, because we had a tough time with it. You enjoyed it definitely more than I did, and I'm glad we did get to see, you know, kind of two sides of this one, but we both ran into the same issues. And again, I can't stop thinking about that. There's no multiplayer. It blows me away.
It really loses and misses it on the mark when you get into a racing game that whole genre thrives on multiplayer.
Yeah.
So when you build the game with its essentially multiplayer purpose, it just dies.
Oh, I know, it's too bad.
All right, Corey, obviously Gas Guzzlers just emptied our tanks. What do you score in this one?
You know what? I didn't enjoy this game. I'll be honest.
I know.
There's things about this game that people are going to enjoy that like racing games.
I enjoyed some of it.
But there's not enough in here, I think, for a racing fan to even enjoy for, you know, long term. The longevity of this game is nowhere because there's no multiplayer. There's no way to play with anybody else. And for me, that's what I like to do. I want to play with my friends. That's why I play video games. I go online.
Sure.
This game doesn't have it. It doesn't have a score either. I'm giving it a 2.
Whoo, that one is real low. Much lower than me, actually. I'm there with 2 more ahead of you with 4.
Gas Guzzlers Extreme is your run-of-the-mill racing shooter. There isn't much here to offer other than a few game modes and a career mode that was actually pretty enjoyable at times, but overall, the dated graphics and lack of any multiplayer mode, local or online, that was a huge hit for this one.
2 kills remain. Purple team takes the lead.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos.
This is your host Nate, and I'm bringing to you the highlights for Rainbow Six Siege Season 11 Day 1 North America. Let's go. So if you're unfamiliar with how the Rainbow Six Pro League works, there are 14 game days, all first to 7, or a total of 12 rounds max. Wins result in 3 points, draws result in 1 point, and losses result in 0. Doing things a little bit differently, both teams voted for maps to not play this time. This resulted in Consulate being the choice of map, and well, the operator bans were Nomad and Valkyrie being chosen by Luminosity Gaming, as well as Capitao and Echo being chosen by Evil Geniuses. Nomad is a strong character on Consulate, so it's interesting seeing the teams adapt accordingly. The rest of the bans are fairly common amongst the pros, so not too much surprise there. Now the community gets to vote about who you think is going to win, and well, there was not too much of a surprise as the fans were in favor of Evil Geniuses winning. The game was a great opener for North America as it was a 7-5 victory for Evil Geniuses. Evil Geniuses really held it together with obtaining 2 solid wins on the Archives while defending. Archives is one of the toughest areas to defend on this map, so clutching those rounds ultimately won them the game. Luminosity Gaming looked amazing, however, and provided they clinched even one defend on Archives, it would have resulted in them getting at least 1 point. It was so close as right to the last second, Luminosity Gaming tried their best to plant the diffuser, but just couldn't pull through. Slash is the MVP in my opinion for this game, not only because throughout the match he was on top, making plays, he also got an ace. An ace is an incredible thing to obtain in Rainbow Six Pro League, so seeing it just got me ramped up. TSM was the second matchup against Team Reciprocity, and it was a good matchup, but a little less close with a 7-2 blowout for TSM. The fans all voted again in the right as they thought TSM was going to win. The map played was Villa, with TSM attacking to start. Operator bans were Team Reciprocity, choosing Buck and Valkyrie, as well as TSM choosing Thatcher and Maestro. Thatcher is always a tough one to get banned, and it may have worked in TSM's favor to ban him. Team Reciprocity, statistically speaking, and I say that word very loosely, as they are based on previous games having roster changes and them getting a new coach, do not have the odds in their favor. And this shouldn't come as a surprise. With the newer team, it takes time to gel and gain chemistry together, but I believe by the end of this season, they really could become a top contender. A huge shout out needs to go out to Merc for TSM, as he really killed it with most skills of the match and in being, in my opinion, game MVP. Most of the highlights are from him destroying the other team, and he fulfilled his role and some in his performance. Heading into match 3, we had Tempo Storm attacking E-United on border. E-United banned IQ and Echo, which IQ was a bit of a surprise as she is not typically banned. IQ is very useful for utility, but still an unusual ban. Tempo Storm picked some standard bans with Buck and Mira. Now the fans were in pretty big favor for EU United to win, which is a bit of a surprise as Tempo Storm is not really a team to take lightly. There's a pretty big following with EU United, so maybe that's where the votes lie. The game was fairly back and forth, but EU United kept coming out on top when it mattered, and it resulted in a 7-4 victory for them. It was nice seeing Goyo shields used, as it's nice seeing new operators used, especially him with his utility. Adding extra deployable shields really adds some different strategy in so many ways. The way EU United played with him and the way they played all around shows in the score. The final game was Space Station Gaming attacking Dark Zero Esports on Villa, and it was absolutely awesome. The fans voted heavily in Space Station Gaming's favor, but this time there was an upset with a 7-5 victory for Dark Zero Esports. This game was intense, with Space Station Gaming claiming 3 wins in a row, but then only to get answered by Dark Zero Esports with 4 victories back to back and 2 flawless rounds within those. Getting a flawless win can really set the momentum for a team, and to get 2, well, it was no wonder Dark Zero couldn't be stopped. Enjoying this summary of Game 1, boys and girls, enjoy the rest of the highlights. I look forward to bringing more highlights and replays for the rest of the season. See John till next week.
All right, Nate, it's a simple story.
That it is.
Nate, you and I jumped into Arise, a simple story, and that's exactly what this game is. A very simple story, but it caught you by surprise.
Oh man, did it ever. Okay, so right off the hop, this game is beautiful.
Yes.
Graphics, I really like the art style they went for. It's kind of like that Pixar kind of feel,
Exactly.
you know? And man, it just struck home with me.
I think the art style gravitates with the story and how it kind of complements each other, and it's so smooth. The art style itself, like you said, is that Pixar feel, and it's just, man, it's beautiful, and that's the kind of games I gravitate to a lot as of late, to be honest. So the story itself, though, is got this touchy-feely sense of this old man, and it's his experience of his life and kind of further on and kind of the experiences he's had to kind of endure and travel through. And it's from there just kind of a platformy feel of a kind of type game, right?
It's a lot of, happiness, and then there's lots of sadness, and it's just, honestly, by the end of it, you might cry a little.
It plays on your emotions. That's what it does. It's got this heartstring of emotions that you're constantly intertwined with, and you're pulling back and forth and weaving with. And the way the game controls, I thought was one of the unique aspects of the game. I really appreciated the fact that you control a simple character, but at the same time, you're also controlling the environment.
It's basically a time transition. You kind of go forward and reverse in time.
Kind of like Prince of Persia.
Yeah, I guess so. But the way they do it, the way they build the maps is perfect with this whole time transition. Some of the maps, like one of the maps, you have this kind of earthquake thing. So you kind of, as you're going through the map, see this whole earthquake, blow up, and then kind of from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
But you have to play with this whole time sync thing of things falling out of time and falling back into time for you to traverse the world, which is kind of a puzzle solving element. Puzzles in this game are pretty light.
Yeah, honestly, you don't get stumped too often. There's maybe 2 or 3 where I had to think there for a few minutes, but ultimately it's meant to just play through and just enjoy the story.
Yeah, it's really cool. So what I would have liked to appreciate more would be the fact that they would have told us that this was a couch co-op game.
Yes.
So I was a little disappointed to be 4 levels deep to find out I can suddenly play this with somebody else, man. I couldn't believe it.
And that's just it. I was the same spot. I was about mission 5 when I realized, I pressed start and it says right at the top right, press A for second player. So
it's like,
that was kind of frustrating, but it's cool how they did it. You don't have 2 characters and then one person's controlling the time. It's just first player is controlling the character, second player is controlling the time lapse. So
it's a teamwork kind of feel thing.
And I like it because you do a mission or 2, you kind of switch the controller. You're not feeling forced that you're just clicking left and right on the analog stick the whole time. But still, ultimately, I'm glad it's in there because it's just a nice added feature.
It was a bonus feature that I wasn't expecting. Once I started the game, I thought, okay, this is it. You are the one guy, and then you control the space around you, the environment, and that was kind of it. And then to experience the fact that I can do it with Crystal at the same time, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of that team building aspect of things, which is really nice. But you don't have to do that. You can play the entire game solo, which is really cool. But the entire game is focused on the fact that it is a single player story in a sense with no dialogue.
That's the thing that gets me, is that there's not one word spoken in this entire game, but yet
still beautifully told.
Exactly. There's still just so much story within it. It's amazing.
So as much as you love the story, Nate, for me, I kind of thought it hung on a little too long. I got about halfway through the game and kind of thought, this should probably kind of wrap up for what this style and type of game is. For me, I kind of thought, man, I'm kind of getting bored now at this point. I'm doing the same things over and over and over. I'm doing the same leaps, the same jumps. The puzzle mechanics are still the same. So I didn't really experience a lot of new things moving forward within the game. Just the fact that the story is being told as you progress through into the next level and the next level.
Yeah, Drew, so I do agree. Some of the missions did feel like they kind of dragged along, mostly in the middle, where some of the puzzles just kind of felt dry.
A little bit, right? There could have been a little bit more to it. Sometimes the level was short, and other times the levels just were a little bit too long. So there's a bit of a pacing issue there.
Yeah, I agree. But another thing too, all in all, the overall jankiness of the game, I'd say there was very little. I only had one mission where it was a snow mission and there's snow flying over the place, and just a few times in it where the frames would drop. But all in all, for me, the rest of the game was perfect.
Where I kind of experienced a little bit more at the beginning of the game, a little bit of jankiness here or there, but overall it didn't really disrupt a lot of the gameplay. It was able still to kind of progress through the story and move ahead. So overall, it was a pretty good experience for myself.
Yeah, man.
All right, Nate, I think honestly, you and I each had our own different, unique experience with the Rise, A Simple Story. What do you score in this one?
Well, man, this one struck home with me. Honestly, by the end of the game, I actually maybe teared a little bit, but I'm not gonna actually say that.
That's
but
awesome.
anyways, so it got struck home with me.
Sure.
The graphics, everything, it's gonna get 8.5 for me, man.
I'm a little bit lower. For me, the story just kind of dragged on a little bit too long. I didn't think it was that necessary to keep going with the game. As beautiful as it is and the story is great, I think I'm there with a 6.5.
Arise, A Simple Story is a beautiful story about a man and his wife and the ups and downs life brings. Feeling maybe a little dry or drawn out at times, ultimately this game is worth playing through solo or with a friend.
I'm a detective back in the 50s with a bit of jazz music going on.
As many private investigators will tell you, the job consists mainly of dealing with two-timing husbands and wives. But once in a while, you're lucky enough to land the kind of case that can get you killed.
So I jumped into Blacksad, Under the Skin, over on the Xbox One. I had a pretty good time over there. The story is kind of where it shines the most, when the gameplay is a little lacking. The story itself is really slow at the beginning, and it is a little unfortunate because when it ramps up halfway through the game, that's where it really starts to shine. You start to kind of get in the mystery of what's been happening. You've been set up and hired at the very beginning of the game to solve a murder that's happened in the middle of a boxing ring. And the idea is to get in and find out who did it, but after that, things kind of escalate and go a little further. So it's really cool, but it just takes so long to get going. Like, I mean, 4 hours. The game overall took me about 15 hours to complete. So that first 4 hours, honestly, it put me to sleep 4 times. So the setup of the game and the location is really cool. That atmosphere that they built and designed in this game is set in the 50s with this blues, jazzy feel, and you're this private detective, and they're obviously there to solve the murder that's happened, but it's the characters you run into that experience and tell the story. But the characters they've designed aren't your typical characters. It's all wildlife. So you're talking like cats and apes and like a fox and stuff like this, which is really cool. The rhino you run into. Things like this is just not seen very often. The game is based off of a comic book that's brought over to the consoles and been turned into a game. And I thought it was really cool. And I've been after this one for a while. So the whole scene and everything and the way it feels and plays is relatively cool. But when you get into the actual gameplay, is really slow and cumbersome. It's that old school point and click sort of adventure, but you're moving your character. So it's not necessarily an actual point and click, but you have to move the character, but to move them, there isn't even a run button. Who doesn't have a run button these days? So to move your character in 2 locations for the first half of the game is pretty cumbersome. You only get one block or the other block. You get the boxing gym or you get the diner, and you're back and forth between the two. And to take yourself from one area and go across into the other area just takes forever. And it just really drags down the experience of the game. Once you get past these 2 areas though, that's when the game really starts to elevate. And then it starts to dive you deeper into the story and find out what's going on behind the scenes. And then you get into this racket and this other stuff and these other cool characters. You run into a lizard, and there's so much more that evolves past the boring part, which is the first 4 hours of the game. So I played the game on the Xbox One X, and to be honest, it ran relatively smooth. Besides the cumbersome controls, the game itself ran pretty well. I ran into a couple janky areas and a couple spots here or there, but I know Corey himself experienced a lot of problems on the original Xbox. He said a lot of it did lag, and it was almost broken in a sense that he couldn't really play a lot of it. He was able to play a ton of the game, but it was so frustrating that he just couldn't get through the parts that he really needed to. It disconnected his experience. It's unfortunate too, because as I said, once you get past this 4-hour experience of how slow the game is, it really elevates. And the characters, and once John Blacksad, your main character, starts to discover these clues and piece them together, it's kind of got a couple unique aspects to the game that open up. There are collectibles that you can get within the world too. You're collecting these old school baseball cards, which is really kind of pays homage to the back of the old days of those baseball stars and stuff like that, like Babe Ruth and things, which is really cool. I like the style. It feels like those old style Disney movies, but ported up into something new for today. But again, going back graphically, I thought it could have been a little bit better. It wasn't quite there yet. Just briefly touching up on the graphics, I found some parts were really good. You get a close-up shot every now and then of John Blacksad himself. I thought he looked great as the cat character, but then you get other distances and the actual environments are a little blurry at moments. So it kind of had this mixed reaction for me, which was unfortunate. However, all in all, my time with Blacksad is a bit of a mixed bag. The story was great at the end of the game, but to get there was a little rough. Cumbersome controls, a little slow pacing. The pacing was a big problem, honestly, so I'm there with a 5. Its slow start with unfortunate game pacing was tough to proceed further into the murder mystery that turned out to be great closer to the end of the game. Clunky controls and satisfactory graphics just wasn't enough for Blacksad Under the Skin to shine in the 50s era spotlight.
You're a good man, Blacksad.
A simple exchange of information.
If I wish to complete my job, short.
Scott, we're back from holidays and we made it through the episode. Now each and every week, you guys hit us up on InsideTheGame.ca. Let us know that you got one cool clip you'd like to show off. Who do we got this week?
This week we have one of my friends, Brian, dragging it home in Rocket League.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sticking around. We'll see you next week inside the game.